Hi, my name is Mike Franz, and I will be presenting Cléante from Molière's The Miser, Act 1, Scene 2, adapted by Miles Mallison. And I will also be presenting Lieutenant Yolland from Brian Friel's translations, and I will be telling a short story. Sister, thank God I found you, and alone. I want to talk to you. I've something to say to you. It's been on the tip of my tongue for days. I dared not say it before because I hadn't the courage. Yet I can say it all in one word. Love. Sister, I'm in love! But before I say another word, I want you to understand that I realize I can go no further in this without the full knowledge and consent of my father. I'm dependent on him. He gave me life, and therefore everything. After all, our parents are older than we are. We must always remember that. And being older, they're beyond the clutches of passion. Theirs is the judgment of reason. In this matter of marriage, our whole future is at stake. Obviously, for our own sakes, we should allow them, out of their so much greater experience and wisdom, to choose for us, and to abide by their decision, even when it is contrary to our own. I'm saying all this to you, sister, to save you the trouble of saying it to me yourself. Because I don't propose to listen to a word of it. No, I've made up my mind. I mean to marry the lady I love, and nothing you can say can alter that. I was washing outside my tent this morning, and Doherty was passing by with a scythe across his shoulder. And he pointed to the long grass surrounding my tent and cut a pathway round my tent, from the tent down to the road, so that my feet won't get wet with the dew. Wasn't that kind of him? And I have no words to thank him. Just before Doherty came up to me this morning, I was thinking that at that very moment I might have been in Bombay instead of Ballybeg. You see, my father was at his wit's end with me. Finally, he got me a job in the East India Company, some kind of clerkship. This was 11 months ago. So I set off for London. Unfortunately, I missed the boat. Literally. And since I couldn't face father and hadn't enough money to hang about until the next sailing, I joined the army. And they stuck me into the engineers and posted me to Dublin, and Dublin sent me here. And while I was washing this morning and looking across the Travan, I was thinking how very, very lucky I am to be here and not in Bombay. So the funny thing that happened to me this summer when I was in Ireland. I had decided that I wanted to find a relative that my grandmother had told me about. So I, on a whim, on a Sunday, decided to just take the train to her town and see if I could find her. So I get off the train and all I see is this expanse of green and not a building in sight. So I start walking to the town center. I get there and all I see is a gas station, a post office, and a pub. So I went into the pub, I showed the bartender the name, and she didn't know who this person was, but she turned to a guy, drinking and smoking, and showed him the name, and he said, "Oh, I can show you where her house is." He comes outside with the pub with me and points to the road and says, "Oh, that's where her house is. You drove here, right?" And I said, "No." And he takes a moment and then just says, "All right, go on, I'll give you a ride." And he gives me a ride. So the whole ride he is telling me, I don't think she's going to be home. She lives alone. So did you tell her you were coming? I said no. So we get there and this old woman comes out, this tiny little old woman. And I get out of the car and I go up to her and I say, this is going to sound very strange, but my name is Mike Franz. I'm a relative of yours from America. My grandmother I gave her my grandmother's name, and for a second she has no idea what's going on and looks at me. But then a light goes off in her eyes and she says, "Oh, I know exactly who you are. Oh, it's so nice to meet you. Oh, it's lovely. I know exactly who you are." And she grabs my arm and brings me into her house, no questions asked, and we have tea and cake and we talk for like 2.5 hours, and then she gives me a ride back to the train station so that I can get back to where I was staying. It was so funny because everything could have gone wrong, but for some reason everything just lined up and it was great.